So now we are dealing with the characteristics of a drainage basin, because now in the previous video we covered the factors that influence drainage. I mean the factors that influence surface runoff, and then we touched a little on drainage basins and all the characteristics of a river system. So now we are dealing with the characteristics of a drainage basin. So the first characteristic is stream order, the second one is drainage density, the third one is drainage pattern. So drainage patterns, we have 7 types of drainage patterns that we're going to cover. So I'm going to start with the stream order. So the stream order talks about the number of streams that are found in a river system. So, but then there's a way in which you calculate a stream order in a stream or in a river system. So, the first order streams, or the first rivers, small rivers, the small streams, we call them like a first order. They are found where the river originates. So I'm going to draw a small sketch to try and explain stream order. So similar streams are called first order streams. So for example, if we have this sketch of a river system, so this is our first 2 streams. So when we calculate, we say this one is the first stream, and then also this one is another first stream. So when a first stream and a first stream join together in a confluence, they form second order stream. So this is number 2. After that, we come again into this side. So we also have a first order stream and a first order stream because they are similar to this one. So when they join together, they form second order stream. So when these 2 second orders, this one and this one, combine, they form a third order stream. But then when this first order and the first order stream join, they're going to form a second order again. But then a first order plus a second order is still a second order. It doesn't change. So it means here is going to be another second order. But then a third order plus a second order, it doesn't change. It still remains a third order, and so on until we've calculated all stream order. So let's say, for example, when we calculate here, we are left with only 3 order streams. Third order streams. Obviously, this whole thing, the stream order here, we're going to call it third order stream. Okay, so another thing is drainage density. So drainage density is the total number of all the streams that are found in a drainage basins. So it means if we have the same sketch here and then we want to calculate drainage density, it means we are going to add all of those streams that are found in this river system so that we can find our drainage density. So drainage density is the total length of all streams found in a river system or in a drainage basin. So we call it a drainage density. So if you want to calculate drainage density, you use this formula. So drainage density is equals to total number of all the streams that are found in a drainage basin divided by the area of that drainage basin, and then we're going to find your drainage density. And then the third thing is drainage patterns. So drainage patterns are shapes that are formed by a river when it flows. So when the river is busy flowing on the surface of the ground, it forms different patterns depending on where it flows. So it forms different drainage patterns. So the 7 drainage patterns that we'll be discussing in our case are Dendritic Pattern, Trellis, Parallel, Radial or Pattern, Centrifugal, Deranged or Rectangular. So these are 7 drainage patterns that we are going to discuss in our case. So like I've already said, drainage patterns are the patterns or shapes that are formed by rivers when the river is flowing on the surface. So these are shapes formed by a river when they flow. So it depends on the underlying rock, like which type of rock is found at that particular point in which a river flows. So if we have a resistant rock or a hard rock, we're going to have a different pattern because of like the river is going to try to find the easiest way to travel so that we cannot encounter resistance. So the first one is Dendritic Pattern. So Dendritic Pattern is a pattern that is formed by a river system when the river is flowing on a rock that has uniform rock structure, or the rock that the river is flowing on top of, like it is uniform. It doesn't have a hard surface and then a soft surface. That surface like is uniform, like the rock there has the equal texture of surfaces. So that's our dendritic. So the dendritic pattern. So another thing is that this pattern, it looks like a tree, like its shape is the same as of a tree. So it means our dendritic pattern, its shape is like the branches of a tree. So this is our dendritic pattern. So in order for you to be able to identify a dendritic pattern, you notice that the tributaries, they meet the main stream in acute angles. An acute angle is an angle that is less than 90 degrees. So that's an acute angle. So these small streams, they join the main stream in acute angles, smaller angles. So the tributaries join main stream at acute angles. Another thing is formed in a uniform rock type. So the word dendron it comes from dendritic. So the word dendron means a tree. That's why they say that this drainage pattern looks like a tree. And then another pattern is trellis. So in a trellis pattern, we have parallel streams. They are parallel to each other like this. And then their tributaries are very small or short. It has short tributaries. And then these short tributaries, they meet the main stream at right angles. You can see they form right angle. A right angle is a 90 degrees angle. It's a right angle. So these short tributaries, they meet the main stream at right angles. That's our trellis. So the tributaries are short, and then they meet main stream at angle of 90 degrees or right angle. And then another pattern is parallel. So the word parallel, it shows you that like all of the stream, like it is like all of the streams are parallel, and then their tributaries are also parallel to the main stream. So this is our parallel. You can see the tributaries are parallel to the main stream. So it's something like this. So we have parallel streams. Then another thing with a parallel is that it is formed in steep gradients. So it means it is formed in a steep slope. That's why it becomes parallel, because when the slope is steep, the stream is going to flow downward. So when it flows downward, it's going to be parallel. That's why it is formed there. And then another one is radial. Or sometimes they call it centripetal. So a radial pattern is formed when all the streams, they flow towards a center, like they flow towards a center. Maybe when there's a mountain, and then in that mountain, the rivers, they flow from the top of the mountain and then they flow downwards. Maybe when there's a crater is an opening that is formed by a meteorite when it hits the surface, and then it leaves an opening, a bigger opening on the surface. So when the rivers, they start to flow towards that opening or that hole, they form a radial pattern or a centripetal. So you can see like the word centripetal, it means they go towards the center, centripetal, towards the center. This is our key word. Petal means towards. So it is something like this. So as you can see, like we have these rivers, so all of them are flowing towards a center. So we have a center, maybe we have a hole or an opening. So all of our rivers, they flow towards the center. They flow towards the center. That's why you form a radial pattern. So that's why I said it forms in mountains or conical hills or mesas. And then another thing I said, all streams flow towards the center. So that is our radial pattern. And then another one is centrifugal. It is centrifugal. So I'm just going to write it here. So in our centrifugal pattern, the streams, they flow away from a center. So it means centrifugal is the opposite of centripetal. So it means all the streams are flowing away from the center. So maybe they flow from the top of the mountain downwards, away from the center. So centrifugal. So our centrifugal is something like this. So you have to notice that this pattern, centrifugal, is different from this one, because of in this one you can see the tributaries, they point away from the center, but then in this one the tributaries, they point toward the center. So that's the difference, because of like here the water of the river, it is flowing away from the center. So maybe here we have a mountain. This mountain is very high. So when it's high, the streams, they start to flow downward away from that mountain. So that is our centrifugal. So here, all streams flow away from center. So like say, it is formed on top of mountains or hills. And then another one is a deranged pattern. It is a deranged pattern. So the deranged pattern, it doesn't have a shape, a well-developed shape, a deranged pattern. It doesn't have order. So this one, it doesn't have order, because of like this one, it is formed in flat surfaces, like when there is flat, and then the water doesn't form a pattern there. The water just stays there the way it wants. It doesn't have a definite or a well-defined shape. This is our deranged pattern. So it's something like this, and then maybe we have water here and here. It doesn't have a well-defined shape. So this one, it doesn't have well-defined shape, and then it is formed in flat surfaces. That is our drainage. So now I'm going to discuss the last pattern. So this last pattern is our rectangular. So we have a keyword there, rectangular. So rectangular, it means is the word that comes from rectangle. So it means somewhere, somehow, this pattern looks like a rectangle. So when you did mathematics or mathematical literacy, you like, obviously you have to know about different quadrilaterals or different shapes. So a rectangular pattern has the shape of a rectangle. So when the river is busy flowing, it forms a shape of a rectangle, depending on the factors that I'm going to mention here. So this one rectangular, it is something like this. So as you can see, like our tributaries, this is our tributary, and then they join this main river, and then this main river. As you can see, our tributary forms some sort of a triangle here. If I can complete this thing, we are going to see this shape called a rectangle forming. That's why they call it a rectangular pattern. So in the rectangular pattern, the shape is similar to that of a rectangle. And then another thing, the tributaries, they join the main stream at right angles. They form an angle of 90 degrees that we call a right angle. That is our rectangular pattern. So this pattern is found or formed in a rock that has cracks. Maybe if our rock has cracks, that looks like a triangle. So obviously when the water flows there, the water is going to join or follow those cracks that looks like a rectangle, and then forming this rectangular pattern. So this one looks like a rectangle. The tributaries join main stream at the right angles, and then lastly is formed in rocks which have cracks or joints. So that is our last pattern that is formed by a river system when it is busy flowing. So I'm going to end my lesson here. So thank you for watching. Yeah.